Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, with my Week 15 2014 NFL predictions. Well, last week, I bounced back quite nicely from my 8-8 week the week before. I went 12-4. And now, overall for the year, I'm 134, 73, and 1. So that equals up to about 64, 65%. So with 3 weeks left, I think I can reach my 67% goal. Another great week of football in the NFL. So many big things happened in the league, such as, first of all, kudos to the Pittsburgh Steelers for beating the Cincinnati Bengals 42-21. I thought that was an incredibly necessary and impressive win, because it really showed that, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers are better than the Bengals. And the Bengals just continue to show that in the bigger games and in the bigger moments, they cannot be trusted. And they cannot get the job done. Le'Veon Bell runs for 185 yards. Ben Roethlisberger has 390 yards and 3 touchdowns without an interception. A.J. Green has 11 receptions and a career-high 225 yards along with a touchdown, and they still win by 21 points, Pittsburgh did. And I thought there were 2 key plays that ended the game for that game. One was the Andy Dalton fumble right after the Steelers scored and made it 21-20. Or right after the Steelers scored and got a field goal, and then it was 21-20 Cincinnati. And then Ben Roethlisberger on his 6th throwing a 94-yard touchdown bomb to Martavis Bryant. I thought those were the 2 plays that broke the camel's back for them, and it was disappointing. So, but kudos to Pittsburgh, though. They are now in the driver's seat to take the AFC North from the Bengals and become the 4th seed in the AFC. Speaking of the AFC North, kudos to the Ravens. We got a very big win over the Miami Dolphins, and at first, through a majority of the game, it was very evenly fought, but I thought that the Steve Smith touchdown 5 seconds to go in the second half was huge, because that gave us some confidence, and then we were just able to run the ball right down Miami's throat, and then also, we also got some big bombs off for Flacco, and we dominated. Also, our defense had 5 sacks, and it's showing again that, just like Cincinnati, just that Miami, they can win games and they can be competitive, but they're just not there yet, to me, as a contending playoff team. And I think now, everything that went on on Sunday, I believe that they will not make the playoffs, since they have to play New England and have to play the Jets and the Vikings at the end. I think they'll win those 2 games, but I don't think it'll be enough to win. So kudos to the Ravens, though. Let's see a few other games. Cleveland, another disappointing performance by Brian Hoyer and this offense. He had 140 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And the offense got outscored by the defense. The defense scored 14 points. The offense scored 10. And I truly feel that it's time in Cleveland, if they lose next week, to put in Johnny Manziel. Because the Cleveland Browns will not make the playoffs if they don't beat Cincinnati next week. And I feel that with all the pressure, he's not going to be able to do it. Even though, ironically, just a month ago, Brian Hoyer had one of his best games. He threw for 190 yards, no touchdown interceptions. But they won 24-3 with that run game and that defense. A lot's changed for both teams, but I feel Cincinnati, should be able to win this one. And that should seal Brian Hoyer's fate, because if they go 7-7, there's no way the Browns make the playoffs. And it's disappointing. But I definitely think that Hoyer's the main reason. Josh Gordon deserves some blame, because he has a couple big drops. And the defense, again, you can't have a pass interference call, or, you can't miss a field goal, which Billy Cundiff did. So it's not all Hoyer's fault. It's not. But a majority of it is on his shoulders. Let's see, a few other things. Kudos to Denver and New England for winning games that they needed to keep up the pace with the 1 seed in the AFC. New England, of course, beat San Diego 23-14, and Denver beat Buffalo 24-17. And unfortunately for Peyton Manning, he could not keep his 51 consecutive touchdown game streak alive. So that means that Drew Brees, for another long time, can keep his record at bay. But also, I do have to say that the Denver does have a running game now, and I'm incredibly impressed with that. I think that C.J. Anderson and Jawan Thompson, they're a good 1-2 punch. C.J. Anderson has earned that number 1 job. To me, he is putting up numbers that are consistent enough. of a starting running back. And if the Broncos' passing game can rebound a bit, I think that they can be the most dangerous team to play New England in the AFC title game. And as for New England, they just out-defended one of the better offenses in the game with San Diego. And kudos to them for that. A couple more little minor things before I get to my picks. Congratulations to Seattle for physically dominating the Philadelphia Eagles, 24-14. The numbers really don't say that much, though, for how bad Philadelphia's offense was. 96 yards passing from Sanchez, an interception. Shady only ran for 57 yards, and they were held to a Chip Kelly low 136 yards. So it shows that if you have a secondary and a defense that can get a lot of pressure on Mark Sanchez, that he cannot play that well. Even though I do believe Nick Foles would not have played that much better. So everybody's saying that Foles should be the guy. Slow your roll with that, because I don't think that he would do that much better. And let's see. Arizona, they got a big win over Kansas City. They needed that. Drew Stanton, for the first time in 2 games, did not throw an interception. And he did throw that big touchdown to Juwan Brown to win the game. And again, it shows that Kansas City, their offense is basically Jamal Charles and their tight ends. Jamal Charles had a great game. He had about 110 total yards of offense and 2 touchdowns. But when you don't have any receivers, you don't really throw. The biggest guy that they threw to was Travis Kelce, their tight end. Even though he was the one that also cost them the game with the fumble. It's showing that Kansas City's flaws are coming out. And that Arizona could win this type of game. Even though best of luck to Antonio Cromartie, they said his injury is not serious. And I know that they can't wait to have him back, along with Tyrann Mathieu, to help that no-fly zone in Arizona continue to be the way it is. And lastly, congratulations to Aaron Rodgers for winning his 68th game out of 100 starts. That means he has tied Brett Favre's record through 100 starts, but he is on a much better pace than Aaron Rodgers. Even though I would say that any Packer fan, I would be concerned about your defense. You just let the Atlanta Falcons on the road go into Lambeau and put up 34 points in Lambeau. The last 2 games, instead of winning by 20, you've won by 3 and 5. So definitely teams are starting to gain some confidence that they can play you. But I would say that definitely look out. Because I would say Seattle is coming. And I think Philadelphia and those other teams, they're going to want some revenge for what you did to them. So, see what happens. So those are my thoughts on last week. Time for my picks. On Thursday, when the 10-3 Arizona Cardinals go to the 6-7 St. Louis Rams, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals. And then on Sunday, when the 8-5 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 5-8 Atlanta Falcons, I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. When the 3-10 Washington Redskins go to the 4-9 New York Giants, I am taking the New York Giants. When the 7-6 Miami Dolphins go to the 10-3 New England Patriots, I'm going to take the New England Patriots. When the 2-11 Oakland Raiders go to the 7-6 Kansas City Chiefs, I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs. When the 7-6 Houston Texans go to the 9-4 Indianapolis Colts, I am taking the Indianapolis Colts. When the 2-11 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 8-5 Baltimore Ravens, I am taking the Baltimore Ravens. When the 10-3 Green Bay Packers go to the 7-6 Buffalo Bills, I am taking the Green Bay Packers. When the 2-11 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 4-8-1 Carolina Panthers, I am taking the Carolina Panthers. When the 8-4-1 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 7-6 Cleveland Browns, I am taking the Cincinnati Bengals. When the 6-7 Minnesota Vikings go to the 9-4 Detroit Lions, I am taking the Detroit Lions. When the 2-11 New York Jets go to the 2-11 Tennessee Titans, I am taking the New York Jets. When the 10-3 Denver Broncos go to the 8-5 San Diego Chargers, I am taking the Denver Broncos. When the 7-6 San Francisco 49ers go to the 9-4 Seattle Seahawks, I am taking the Seattle Seahawks. And in the Sunday night game, when the 9-4 Dallas Cowboys go to the 9-4 Philadelphia Eagles, I am taking the Philadelphia Eagles. And then in the Monday night game, when the 5-8 New Orleans Saints go to the 5-8 Chicago Bears, I am taking the New Orleans Saints. All right, time for my thoughts on each game. Arizona at St. Louis. I am definitely concerned about this game. St. Louis is one of the best 6 and 7 teams in the history of the league. I'm going to say that right now. A team coming off back-to-back shutouts. This team has not done back-to-back shutouts since 1945. That's number one. And then you pile that on with wins over the Niners, Seahawks, and Broncos. Probably the 3 best teams going off of last year. This team is incredibly impressive, and it's amazing that they are 6 and 7. I think that, again, they still need a quarterback. Sean Hill is doing enough. And I am definitely concerned because St. Louis has won. They are 2-0 at home against their division rivals this year. And a few weeks ago in Arizona, they put up a fight. If it wasn't for 2 touchdowns in about 60 seconds, the Rams might have beat the Cardinals in Arizona. And I am definitely concerned about St. Louis's pass rush going after Drew Stanton, because Drew Stanton is not Carson Palmer. He's not as good, and he's going to get whipped around. But I'm going to say what I said last week about Kansas City against Arizona. St. Louis's receiving core is not that good. And I feel that their no-fly zone can handle enough, and they can get enough pressure on Sean Hill to make him not be as effective, allowing Drew Stanton to make some timely throws against the secondary that's not really that impressive. Besides Jenkins, their safeties aren't bad, but Janoris Jenkins is the real big guy they have to be concerned about, but they're going to have fits. And I think they can do enough to win this game. If they can't run the ball, because remember, Andre Ellington is on IR due to a hip injury, that's unfortunate. I think Stephon Taylor can do enough to hold that running game enough. Look, I think the Rams have a great shot to win this game, and this is Jeff Fisher's job on the line here, because I think they can get 8 wins if they beat the Cardinals on Thursday. But I'm just going to go with the secondary again, just because St. Louis's receiving core is maybe just as good as Kansas City's. And I think that Arizona can run enough and Stan can stay upright enough for them to barely get out of this game with a win and some confidence going into their game next week against Seattle at home, where the NFC West is on the line. I think the game can be competitive, and St. Louis maybe should be favored, but I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I trust that secondary enough to give Sean Hill problems, and that's going to be enough. So that's why I'm taking the Cardinals to beat the Rams. Pittsburgh and Atlanta, this is an awkward game for me, because I feel that Pittsburgh just got a huge high off their win against the Bengals. Most people didn't expect them to win that game, and they showed up. And as the year's gone on, when Pittsburgh's shown up against teams such as Cleveland and Carolina, they always have a letdown. Look at the Baltimore game the week after, look at the Tampa game the week after, and look at the Jet game the week after they threw the back-to-back 6-touchdown games. And I know this is an Atlanta team that is playing for their division life still at 5-8. This is the worst division since the 2009 NFC West, the NFC South. But I feel that even though Atlanta's at home and they are motivated and Pittsburgh will be in for a letdown, I just don't see it, because they have Le'Veon Bell, who is, to me right now, if you talked about it today, the best dual threat back in the league. They are going to give it to him and give it to him and give it to him, and I don't see them stopping it. They're not playing Drew Stanton like they did the last home game where they beat Arizona 29-10. This is Ben Roethlisberger. This is a mobile guy with great weapons in Antonio, Martavius, and Heath, and all those guys. That's a much better offense behind a much better quarterback. And also, I think that even though Pittsburgh's secondary has been very bad and they're coming off a 225-yard performance, like I said earlier, against A.J. Green, Roddy White is not A.J. Green at this point, and I don't think Julio Jones, even a banged-up Julio Jones, it's not good. And to not maybe have those weapons, depending on how his health is, that's going to be a huge plus for Pittsburgh, and Atlanta's not going to get enough offense, especially with Pittsburgh controlling the clock, to win this game. I think if Julio Jones does play, and Matt Ryan can light up that Steelers secondary, this will be a competitive game, no doubt. But I think that a banged-up Julio Jones is not going to be 100%, and that's huge, and that's going to be the biggest difference for me in this game. Can Atlanta win this game? Absolutely, especially with how Pittsburgh has looked over the last couple weeks, or just the way they've had these big wins and have these pathetic losses. But that's why I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I trust the running game enough. Julio Jones might not play. If he does, he's going to be banged up a little bit, and I think that'll be enough, especially with the confidence that Pittsburgh maybe has. They're not going to take this game for granted. And that's going to be enough for them to beat this Falcon team, because they have a secondary. If I had to trust Big Ben or Ryan in a shootout, I'll take Big Ben. So that's why I'm taking the Steelers over the Falcons. The Giants over the Redskins. The Giants finally got a win after being 3-2 and dropping 8 straight. They are now 4-9, or 7 straight. They are now 4-9, and they are playing a Redskin team that is just gotten shut out by the Rams. And to all Redskins fans, that was pretty hilarious what Jeff Fisher did by sending out the 6 players that they got from the RG3 trade. That was a bit of a troll move by him. So kudos to Jeff Fisher. But I'm going to take the Giants just because the Redskins have no quarterback. I think if Colt McCoy can't play, that helps because RG3 is going to be in there. And at this point, he's been whipped around and hurt, and they can get after him. He really hasn't been able to have good mechanics. And even if Colt McCoy plays, I think that Giant team is motivated. They know that they have 3 weeks left with Tom Coughlin, and they want to give him on the right foot. And the last time the Giants have won a big game was actually against the Redskins, all the way back in Week 4 when they won 45-14. I think this could be the same score this time around. I just think that the Giants are motivated. This is a pathetic Redskin team that's coming off 5 straight losses. And I think this Giant team can win this game due to what they have. They have a quarterback. They have a defense that's motivated, and they have an offense led by Odell Beckham Jr. this year that can beat up this Redskins secondary. So that's why I'm taking the Giants to beat the Redskins. New England over Miami. This was an interesting game because Miami is definitely motivated to try to get this win because this is their playoff game in all likelihood. But this is in New England. In Miami, New England has lost to Miami several times over the last several years. Actually, back-to-back years. But this New England team has a defense that's motivated. They're going to be going after Ryan Tannehill. I think they know the formula. They can run the ball with LeGarrette Blount and Jonas Gray. Miami hasn't beaten New England at home in the last several years. And just looking at what New England has at stake, because they're going to win the division this week if they beat Miami. Because I expect Buffalo to lose to Green Bay. And I just feel that Tannehill is going to get outclassed by Brady. They're at home, and it's just hard not to go with this Patriot team with those factors. If Tannehill's defense can get through that Patriot offense, or like they did in Week 1, they're going to put up a fight. And they do have, Wallace and Hartline, so they got some big receivers on New England's corners. But that's not going to be enough to beat Brady at home, especially coming off a big confidence-building win over the San Diego Chargers. Miami's going to put up a fight, but I'm going to take New England just based on that it's at home and all those other factors. So that's what I'm going to take New England to beat Miami. Kansas City over Oakland. This is a really odd pick because Oakland's been on a little bit of a roll. They've beaten 2 7-6 teams over the last 3 weeks. They've beaten Kansas City and they've beaten San Francisco. But I am going to say this. I think Kansas City is at home. They are extremely motivated. And playing in Arrowhead is a very tough thing to do. Actually, the last time the Chiefs won was at Arrowhead against the Seahawks. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball through Oakland. I think Alex Smith will finally get a touchdown pass to a wide receiver. I will book that. He will finally get a touchdown to a wide receiver. And they'll do enough to win this game. With how Oakland's been playing and how they played against Kansas City, could they beat them again? Yes. But no, I think they will. Kansas City's at home. They have Jamal Charles. They're motivated to play this game, and they still have a chance for the playoffs. They're going to just give it to Charles, keep Charles in charge, Charles in charge, Charles in charge. He will run the ball down the Raiders' throat. Alex Smith will finally throw a touchdown to a wide receiver, and this defense will come after Derek Carr just the way Oakland's did to Kansas City 2 weeks ago. Oakland has a chance to win because they beat them last time. But I'm going to take Kansas City. They're at home. They're motivated. And that's enough for me to take them to beat Oakland. And that's one of my locks. I'm going to take Kansas City over Oakland as one of my locks. All right, Houston and Indianapolis. I'm going to take Indianapolis on this one just because Indianapolis survived a crucial game that they needed. And Andrew Luck, kind of like in the Kansas City game last year, dug himself out of a huge hole. To have 3 turnovers, 2 of them were touchdowns, and to be able to win that game, that's a credit to Andrew Luck. And even though, that he had a rough game, that shows how good and talented this guy can be. And going up against the Houston team, they have a little bit of confidence. They beat 2 division rivals back-to-back. They beat Tennessee and they beat Jacksonville. Bravo. That's what you were supposed to do. But this is Indy. Indy's at home. You haven't beaten Indy at home in the last several years. And I just feel that, again, with Ryan Fitzpatrick back out there, especially if Andre Johnson maybe not being able to play, that's going to be huge enough that I think their running game will be stopped enough. And Ryan Fitzpatrick's offense will not be able to do enough against that Colts secondary with the weapons he has, unless DeAndre Hopkins has a big game, to win this game. Houston's defense will keep Indy in this fight. But I'm going to take Indy just because I trust Luck over Fitzpatrick, and Luck has a much better offense to work with in this game than Houston does, especially if Andre Johnson is out. So that's why I'm going to take Indianapolis over Houston. My second lock of the week, Baltimore over Jacksonville. Baltimore is Baltimore. Jacksonville is Jacksonville. Jacksonville only has 2 wins. Blake Bortles has 15 interceptions. The Ravens are undefeated we are 6-1 we are 5-1 at home. This is a 2-win team. Yeah, just pretty much everything. This is one of Justin Forsett. This is a former team of his, so he's going to be motivated for revenge. And yeah, I just feel that we have way more talent, even though Bortles is going up against a better secondary, because I think Jacksonville's defense does have some good qualities to them, but their offense nearly doesn't have enough, and we can shut down that offense, and we'll give the Ravens will have a short field to work with, and they'll dominate this team quite decisively, just from how I've seen both teams. And that's my second lock of the week, Baltimore over Jacksonville. That's what I'm thinking, Baltimore over Jacksonville. Green Bay at Buffalo. This is an interesting game because I think Buffalo put up a great fight against Denver. Nobody thought that they could put up that much of a fight. They got 2 interceptions on Peyton Manning. They stopped Peyton Manning's 51 touchdown game streak. But at the end of the day, they still couldn't get it done. And now you go from facing C.J. Anderson to Eddie Lacy, who's a lot bigger and a lot stronger. Oh yeah, that's going to be a fair matchup. I think if Buffalo can get through that offensive line, they can have a good chance to win this game. Because I think, again, Buffalo has some weapons. They have Watkins. They have Woods. They have Goodwin. They have enough receivers that they maybe could get after that Buffalo secondary, but they're not nearly as good as Atlanta, so I don't really see it happening. And also, I don't see Kyle Orton being able to make those throws. And Aaron Rodgers will have a field day with this weak Buffalo secondary. They have proven over the year that they have given up big plays to big receivers, and with all the weapons that Rodgers has, along with Rodgers throwing to him, I just have enough confidence in Rodgers to win this game. They're able to run the ball effectively with Lacy, who's bigger and stronger. I think Buffalo's defense, if they get to him, will cause some problems. And I know Green Bay has played a lot more close on the road than at home. But it's Orton going against that secondary. It's Orton having to deal with Rodgers' pressure. And Kyle Orton is not going to make the throws that Matt Ryan did the other night. And that's good enough for the Packers to win this game. All right, Tampa at Carolina. I'm taking Carolina. Carolina dominated the Saints. They feel confident. This is a Tampa team that is right now the number 1 overall draft team in the league. They have Cam. Tampa has Josh. Cam has confidence. Cam has a defense. Tampa's Tampa. And yeah, and they're at home. And so that's why I'm taking Carolina to beat Tampa. Pretty much that. I don't have enough faith in Tampa. I've seen them. They are a competitive team, and they've looked better at Carolina than on some occasions. But Carolina looked like it got some confidence back, and this is a home game for them. And they beat Tampa earlier in the year, so they've done this before. So that's why I'm going to take them. Cincinnati at Cleveland. I'm taking Cincinnati to beat Cleveland based on the fact that I think Dalton and them will bounce back, and Dalton will outbeat Hoyer just due to all the pressure that Brian Hoyer's under. Andy Dalton, for the most part, he did not throw an interception. He just had that one bad turnover that cost the Bengals the game. But remember, though, this Brian Hoyer, as I said, when they won 24-3, he didn't even throw a touchdown. He threw for about 180 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. And Dalton only threw for about 80 yards and 3 interceptions. He had a quarterback rating of 2. I don't think that he is going to have that bad of a game this time. They are motivated to get this win because they literally, with one situation, they could just win this game and lose out and be in the playoffs depending on what happens. I think, though, that you got A.J. Green motivated. This Brian Hoyer is going to be struggling. He's under the home pressure. Johnny's there. And I guess even if Johnny Manziel starts and they're going to have to deal with that dual threat, I feel that Cincinnati will handle their business. They are motivated to make a statement against the Browns, who embarrassed them a few weeks ago. And they're ready to say to Denver, no matter how big you are, we are not scared of you. We're going to put up a fight. And I think it goes against this Cleveland team this weekend. So that's why I'm taking Cincinnati to beat Cleveland. Detroit over Minnesota. Detroit's defense is number 1. They are dominant. They have been getting after quarterbacks. Bridgewater got a safety to the game. He's been sacked 26 times. Their running game's not going to be able to do that much. Stafford has Megatron. Teddy doesn't. Stafford has a decent running game. And, yeah. And that's my final lock of the week. I'm going to lock again for everybody else, everybody out there. My 3 locks are Kansas City over Oakland, Baltimore over Jacksonville, and Detroit over Minnesota. Those are my 3 locks. I just haven't... Detroit is a much better team. They dominated the last time. Bridgewater got sacked 8 times, and they only scored 3 points. They're at home, and just clearly in every position, they outplay and are out-talented by the Lions. That's what I'm taking the Lions to beat the Vikings. The most pathetic game I have seen in a very long time. The Jets at the Titans. I did not really want to pick this game because it was so embarrassing and how sad it was. But I am going to go with the New York Jets just based on what I saw Geno Smith do. Geno Smith can beat up this Titans defense. They have Percy Harvin. They have Eric Decker. They have a running game, and they have a defense that's going to go after Jake Locker. Even though Jake Locker did beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is right, Jake Locker did beat the Kansas City Chiefs, this team has gone through a complete denigration that this Titan team has, and the Jets, for all their pain and suffering, the Giants got it last week when they beat the Titans. The Jets will get off their schneid this week by beating the Titans as well. So everybody in New York will remember the Titans because that will probably be one of the very few wins they get left for this year and one of the bright spots for both New York teams this year. But that's all going with the Jets over Titans. They have Geno, Tennessee has Jake, and the Jets have a better defense than the Titans do. Denver over San Diego. I'm taking Denver just based on the fact that San Diego's defense is going up against Peyton Manning. I know that the last time they played him in San Diego was 28-20, and I know they're motivated to get this win because that puts Baltimore in the playoff position and San Diego out if everything goes according to what I think it is going to be. But I think Peyton is going to bounce back. He's been frustrated with the games he's been playing, and this San Diego defense, I just don't think is going to be able to handle it. Also, they have to worry about their punter. Their punter, Mike Cyphers, went down with a shoulder injury. And now you have to worry about Nick Novak, your kicker, going to get hit. And I feel that that's a huge loss. I also feel that what's different about this Denver team this time around is that they can run the ball a lot more effectively. Actually, they've been more effective at running the ball than San Diego has been over the last few weeks. And pretty much the whole year. And I expect Peyton and the running game to balance each other out and have a decent enough game where Denver will win this game. Can San Diego put up a fight? Yes, they can. They're a division rival, and they are a talented team. And they didn't look that bad against New England the other day. But Denver has Peyton Manning. Denver has a much better running game, and they are more prepared with a better secondary than San Diego does. So that's what I'm thinking. Denver to beat San Diego. Seattle over San Fran. San Fran just lost to the Raiders. They've lost back-to-back games again. Seattle was motivated. They have a running game that can go through. Marshawn Lynch has 4 of the 8 games where Jim Harbaugh has given up over 100 yards on the ground. Colin Kaepernick's playing like a shell of himself. He's done absolutely terrible in the games in Seattle. He's lost all 3 of them. I think 52-13, 29-3, and then of course the end of 24-19. He's lost every single one of them in a bad way. This team is in a very low morale point, and that's just not a good recipe to go into Seattle. Seattle was motivated. They are one of the best teams in the NFC. You could even argue that they're still the best team in the NFC with what they've done, and they probably should get the 2 seed when it's all said and done. They'll be able to run the ball effectively. Russell Wilson will be able to make plays. That crowd noise will be too much for Kaepernick, and that'll be the nail in Jim Harbaugh's coffin because he'll be 500, and he literally could go 7-9 to end the year. Even though I wouldn't fire Jim Harbaugh, I know the Niners organization will either way, and this is going to be the lowest point in the Jim Harbaugh era because he's finally going to be 500. He's always been above 500 as a coach, or most of the time he's always been above 500. At this point of the year, he's not going to be after this week. So that's what I'm taking Seattle to beat San Francisco. Philadelphia over Dallas. This is my game of the week. This is going to be exciting football. These are two motivated teams. Dallas is 6-0 on the road. Philadelphia is 6-1 at home. They're just coming off a pathetic loss against Seattle, who the Cowboys beat in Seattle. But I'm going to take Philadelphia just because it's only been 2 weeks since Thanksgiving, and I think that those two teams are still there. Even though Tony Romo did not have a pain-killing injection in his back for the Cowboys game, he still looked pathetic. That Eagles defense smothered that Cowboys offensive line for 4 sacks, and LaShawn McCoy ran the ball for 159 yards. And Sanchez played effective football. Do I think this game will be a lot closer? Yes, because the Dallas Cowboys have 10 days of rest. They only had 3 coming off this Sunday night game. And for me, but I just still believe that this Dallas defense is nowhere near the caliber of Seattle's. This is a much weaker secondary. They can make some plays, and they maybe can get after McCoy, but it's going to be a lot easier to run the offense in this game. Even though the Dallas Cowboys did beat the Philadelphia Eagles 17-3 last year on the road. And again, they are 6-0. But I trust Philadelphia's offensive line to get after that Dallas defensive line. Mark Sanchez will play effective football and play another game like he did at home. And Dallas will crack under this pressure of this game. I know that, they might feel confident they're undefeated on the road, but this Philadelphia team is motivated, and they want to sweep the Cowboys to clinch the NFC East and show Philadelphia that they can maybe be a little bit of a threat in the playoffs. The game is going to be competitive, and I would not be surprised if Dallas wins this game based on everything I just said. But with all the circumstance, with the situation, with how they played, and how short of a time it's been since those two teams played, I'm going to take Philadelphia at home. I'm going to take the home points. I'm going to take the running game being back to being effective. Cowboys defense not being as good. And yes, that's what I'm taking the Eagles to beat the Cowboys. And finally, New Orleans over Chicago. I am taking the Saints to beat the Bears based on the fact that New Orleans' last 2 wins have been on the road. So they're in a little bit of a roll. And Chicago's at home where they're 2-4. And finally, Brandon Marshall was gone, and they have Jay Cutler at quarterback. As bad as Drew Brees and this Saints team has looked, I will take Drew Brees over Jay Cutler any day. And I think with the confidence they have, they will beat this Bears team on the road. Is it that impressive? No. But it'll be good enough for them to get first place in the NFC South because the Saints are still playing for something and the Bears are not. Except for pride. So that's it. So, best of luck to all teams, players, fantasy owners, and fellow prognosticators this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe to my channel. And if anybody has any questions or any debates that they would like me to ask, please put in the comment section. I'd love to hear from everybody. And that's it. So until next week, this is Matt the Adult Fanatic signing off. Till then, so long.